so you can finally scale your business without burnout. Let's dive in.
Dr. Noah St. John is known worldwide as the father of affirmations and the creator of Power Habits for real estate professionals. Now, working with Hollywood celebrities, professional athletes, and eight-figure company CEOs, Noah is famous for helping real estate pros make more in just 12 weeks than they made in the last 12 months. Let's welcome to the show, Dr. Noah St. John.
Hello.
Noah, it's great to have you on the show, man. I'm excited to chat with you today. It sounds like you're doing some awesome work helping other folks as well. I went over your bio at a very, very high level. Take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps for me.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, John, I am known for helping real estate professionals, but, all kinds of business owners, entrepreneurs, to make more in just 12 weeks than they did in the previous 12 months while actually winning their lives back. And what I mean by that is, when people come to me, they're usually stressed out, overworked, overburdened, underpaid, a lot of those things that aren't so fun. And, what I'm really known for is helping people to install what I call my power habit system, and thereby helping them not only make more money, which is great, but I feel more importantly, win their lives back. So literally winning back 1 to 3 hours per day and 4 to 8 weeks per year. And I have literally thousands of case studies and success stories of my clients who've done precisely that, literally come to me. And when they came, they were stuck. They were, plateaued, hitting what I call an income ceiling. They just kept hitting their head on that income ceiling. And then, by following my system, they were really able to break through and really, double, triple, or even more their business in a very, very short amount of time while also winning their lives back, which is, it's a pretty cool thing.
Man, I love it. Well, let's dig in right there, right? I mean, making more in 12 weeks than you did over the last 12 months. That's a big claim. I think most of our listeners would love to, truncate their time frame of what they're making on a year.
Yes.
I mean, what's not so much what's the secret, but like, how are you able to do that? What's the issue that people are facing, and how do you help them overcome
I'll
that?
tell you the secret sauce. It's really simple. It's very powerful. Now, by the way, just for everyone listening, probably not familiar with me, but I'm known as the nerdiest nerd in this industry. I'm like the Sheldon Cooper of self-help. I'm just such a nerd. I've always been a nerd. And I was a nerd long before it was cool to be a nerd. Back in high school, I mean, I had like Coke bottle glasses, a face full of acne, and I didn't have a shoulder length hair. I had shoulder width hair. So just picture that. So I was a total nerd. So not cool back then, but now it's cool to be a nerd. So, hey, thanks for catching up 40 years later. Anyway, so the point is, as a nerd, one of my favorite things to do is use Venn diagrams. I love Venn diagrams. If you read my books or take my courses, you'll see I use tons of Venn diagrams. And why? Because Venn diagrams tell a story in pictures, right? So we humans like to use pictures, right? We think in pictures. All right. So if you just picture in your mind a very simple Venn diagram, which is 2 circles that meet in the middle, and the first circle is called your inner game. All right. Now, your inner game is everything that happens between your ears that you can't see directly. Now, but it affects everything that you're doing. All right. So you can't see it directly, but it's affecting every part of your life. Now, I'm a business coach and executive coach, but I'm also a keynote speaker, right? So I get to speak at real estate conferences, RIA groups and everything all across the country and really around the world, whether it's live or virtually. And one of the things I like to do as a keynote speaker is I like to say to my audience members, okay, now what is one area of your life where your beliefs don't affect you? And here's what people do. They go, and I go, exactly, right? There's no place your beliefs don't affect you, right? Your beliefs affect your health, right? Your well-being, your stress level and all of that, right? Your beliefs affect your wealth, your finances, your career, your business, whether you get that promotion or not, whether you land that deal or not, and so on, right? So that's your money, your wealth. And of course, your beliefs affect your relationships, right? Your personal relationships, your professional relationships, your family, and everything else, right? But here's the funny thing. You can't see a belief. You can only see the effects of a belief, right? And so that's why, like when people come to me, they can be doing really well in one area of their life, but maybe they're stuck or struggling in another. For example, maybe, you're doing really well in your business, but maybe your health is suffering, right? Maybe you're working 14, 18-hour days, right? And, that's the way to burnout, right? And that's the way to, sad to say, but an early grave, right? So that's not so great. And conversely, maybe you're really healthy, but you're not making the money you want. You see what I mean? So it's not cookie cutter, one size fits all. It's very personalized and customized. for our clients, right? Whether it's group coaching or one-on-one, it's very personalized, very customized because everybody's different. Okay. So that's your inner game. But then the other circle here, going back to the Venn diagram, is your outer game, right? Now, your outer game is everything you can see directly, right? So that's all of the stuff that you've probably gone to a million seminars and learned all of this from the marketing guys, right? Offers, funnels, traffic, system strategies, all the marketing tactics that the gurus talk about. But here's the funny thing. It's only when you put them together, inner game and outer game, that when they meet in the middle, that's when you have the phenomenon called success. Okay, now let me give you a quick example of this. Now, I was speaking at a seminar in Los Angeles for a group of 1,000 entrepreneurs. I mean, these are 7 and 8 figure earners, these big companies, right? Big, professional people, successful people, right? So I was walking off the stage. I just finished my talk, and a man came up to me out of the audience. He said, Noah, I want to hire you as my coach. You are the coach I've been looking for. Now, I didn't know this man from Adam. Ironically, his name was Adam. True story. And so I said, okay, well, what's going on? He goes, well, Noah, I own this company. I'm the CEO. And, we're at 7 figures, but we are stuck. And we have been plateaued at that 7-figure level for the past 4 years. And he said, I have thrown all kinds of money at this. I've hired every marketing guru on the planet, but we just can't break through that income ceiling that you were talking about. He said, as soon as I heard you speak about income ceiling and head trash and your foot on the brake and inner game and outer game, he said, everything you just said, he said, I knew you were the coach that I've been looking for. So he literally decided to hire me on the spot. That's why I love working with high achievers, right? Because they make decisions quickly and firmly. They don't dilly-dally. They don't mess around. I got to think about it. They just, boom, they do it. Anyway, so I coached him and his leadership team for about 18 months. And in that 18 months, we were able to get his company that had been plateaued for the past 4 years to over 20 million in revenues, a 600% increase, 600%. Now, most business owners are thrilled with a 10% increase. How about 600%? Right? So you can watch his video and you can watch many, many others on my website. But the point is this: what was the difference? What made the difference? And the difference was what I'm talking about right now. Everybody else had been talking to him about his outer game, right? And it's important. So outer game, hey, that'll get you to 7 figures, maybe. Maybe not, but I mean, it did in his case. But see, because no one had shown him how to master his inner game, that's precisely why he was hitting that income ceiling. And once I showed him and, walked him through my power habit system, boom, we call that hockey stick growth, right? You go along like this and then you get a hockey stick. And that's what we're known for. So it's really, really powerful.
I love you talking about that because it's really great to see the impact, right? And you're talking about the inner game and the outer game. And so much of that is between our own heads, right? And I know it's investors, it's entrepreneurs. That's something everyone struggles with, right? Is that whether it be self-doubt, I know Tony Robbins likes to talk about it a certain way, right? But when you think of that negative talk or you think of just limiting beliefs, that's one of the challenges I know a lot of people face. So you're talking about, it's not just hiring a marketer or launching a new campaign or getting active on social media, but it's really about understanding the inner game and then adding that to the outer game, the things that you can't see. That together is what leads to success. You said a few things, man, and I want to drill down to a couple of them. Mm-hmm. But one that you talked about was the power habits system. And I know you've got a lot of information available on your website, as well with the book that you wrote, powerhabitsrealestate.com. Mm-hmm. Talk to me more about the power habits system and what are some of those habits that really help people get these breakthroughs.
Absolutely. And by the way, when you go to powerhabitsrealestate.com, very easy to remember, powerhabitsrealestate.com, that is my program specifically for real estate investors, like a lot of people watching this program. So it's powerhabitsrealestate.com. And by the way, what that course is, it is an online course. You get instant access, lifetime access, and it's video trainings, and it's literally fill in the blanks. It's, plug and play, paint by numbers. So it's really, really awesome. So the nice thing about that is you don't have to wait for delivery. You don't have to wait for a book to show up at your door. It's available instantly. So what I realized 30 years ago, because see, I spent years and years and years of my life reading every self-help book out there. See, I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. And I know that's a total cliche, but it's true. I grew up in this little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which is one of the wealthiest communities in New England. But my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally, because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community. The have-nots was my family. So I hated being poor. You hear these motivational speakers, they'll get on stage and they'll say things like, well, we were poor, but we were happy. We didn't know we were poor. Well, I'll tell you what, in my family, we freaking knew we were poor because my mother, bless her heart, reminded us every day that we're poor and miserable. So no, it wasn't happy. It sucked. So I said, I hate being poor. What do I do? And, of course, there was no internet back then. There was none of the things we have today. So I did the only thing I could think of, which is I went to the library and I read every book in the self-help section. I just immersed myself in all the classics of success, self-help. Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey. I read 300 books on self-help. And, they all basically said the same thing, set your goals and think positive, use affirmations, blah, blah, blah. They all say the same thing pretty much. So I said, okay. And I tried, I worked so hard, but I could never get ahead. It just never clicked for me. I could never get it to work. It was so frustrating after all those years of reading all those books and trying so hard. And so at the age of 25, I decided to commit suicide. I was so depressed and frustrated. I decided to take my own life. Now, at the very last moment, my life was spared, but I didn't know why. And so I said, I've got to find, what am I doing on this planet? What is my purpose here on the earth? I didn't know how to answer the question. So I went back to the library and I read every book in the spiritual section. And, to try to find, what is my purpose? How do I find my purpose? And questions like that, questions that humans have been asking for centuries. So then fast forward 5 years later, 1997, I had these epiphanies and I realized precisely and exactly what was missing in those hundreds and hundreds of books that I'd spent years and years and years reading that no one was talking about. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is the missing piece. This is the missing link. And what's so funny is so many people, thousands of people have told me since that time that, yes, I found the missing piece for them. Like Adam, that story I just told. I mean, boom, missing piece, 600%. You think? Yeah. So anyway, so that's what my power habit system represents. It represents the culmination of over 30 years of just intense, incredible study of all of these different self-help, modules and different motivational things like that basically scratch the surface, but they never get down to the root cause of why so many smart, creative, talented people are holding themselves back from the success they're perfectly capable of. So that's really what was the genesis of my work. And what is my mission now is to help people, help hardworking entrepreneurs, business owners, investors who are doing everything right, and yet they're still stuck. And they're pulling their hair out going, why am I doing all this? And I'm still hitting this income ceiling. And I'm like, dude, I fixed this 30 years ago. Come on in. It's all right here, man. We've got it for you. And that's what I've been doing. And really, that's the genesis of my power habit system.
I love it, man. I appreciate, sharing a little bit about your story, especially, talking about the challenges you faced and, being suicidal. And obviously, I'm glad you're here with us today and sharing some of the lessons you learned. And, it's interesting too, because there's certainly people who don't know how to find success, right? And to your point, you had to go to the library and learn. That's how I was too, right? I didn't know what it meant to be successful. The only people I knew I knew one person, my best friend, his parents went to college. They were the only people I ever knew that went to college. So I'm like, oh, okay, they seem to be doing a little bit better than us. Let's try this college thing, right? And you just kind of fumble forward a little bit, right? Fail forward and figure out some things along the way. And as adults, as we start to get into the business and entrepreneurs, and you're doing better, but maybe not seeing a success that you really want. And I think most people stay focused on the outer game, as you were talking about.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, how do I get more of this? How do I sell more widgets? How do I do that? What do we need to do to change it? And what you're getting at is they're missing that other component, which is really focusing more internally. Some of our listeners are going to hear what you're saying and push back and say, sounds like a bunch of fluff, right? Sure, all I need to do is think more positively and, the money will come or whatever, right? And I know you're about affirmations, not affirmations, but affirmations.
Right. Yes.
Can you just maybe give us a little bit more context on kind of the power of that inner game and also what you mean when you say affirmations?
Absolutely. All right. So let me answer the first question first. So when you're thinking about your goals, for everyone listening to this program, I want you to really focus on what it is that you want in the next 12 months, right? Now, everybody talks about that, right? Everybody says, set your goals. We've heard that a million times. Okay. Well, first of all, by the way, most people don't set their goals, right? So right off the bat, we lost like 60% of people. What? And, people say, well, no, I want more money. Okay, here's $5. Go away. No, you got to get a lot more specific than that, right? So first of all, right off the bat, yes, we got to get clear on what we want. But here's what nobody talks about, all right? What happens after you set the goal, right? So this is what everybody missed. All right. So what happens after you set the goal? Well, no, I want to make $1 million next year. Okay, great. So that's your goal. But you know what happens for most people right after they set the goal? They go like this. They go, I probably can't do it. Right? You just said you wanted it, but then you literally just took yourself out of the game. It's like, you're in a baseball game and you're like, I want to hit a home run, but I probably can't do it. Let's just go back to the dugout. What? You didn't even try. What the heck is going on here? Right? So, but that's what most people do. They don't mean to do it. They don't want to do it. But that's what causes these other behaviors like procrastination, right? We've heard that a million times. Well, if you got to say, you can't procrastinate. Well, no kidding, right? It's like saying, if you want to lose weight, make sure you don't eat so much. Really? I never thought of that, So the point is that they're giving a lot of this surface level advice that doesn't really do anything. So what I do that's different is I say, okay, let's look at why you just said you can't do the thing you just said you wanted, right? So that's what I'm calling your head trash. Your head trash is a voice in your head that says, I can't do it because blah, 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 right? And then what happens is people fill in the blank. Oh, well, yeah, no, well, I want to do it, but I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I can't afford it. Oh, I don't know where to start. I don't know who I can trust. I can't talk to anybody. Oh, my spouse won't let me do it. My family won't. I got kids. I'm divorced. I'm a Martian. I mean, come on. You got a million excuses. But that's the very thing. What happens so funny as humans, we always make ourselves right. So if you just said to me, hey, no, I want to make $1 million, but I probably can't do it. Guess what? You're going to prove yourself right. Right. So what I do that's different is I come in and I look at the reason why you're saying you can't do it in the first place. Let me give you another perfect example. So I was speaking at a real estate conference in Phoenix, and I, was speaking on exactly what I'm talking about. And a man came up to me after I spoke. His name's Bill. And he said, well, no, I've been going to seminars for years and years. I've tried everything. And, what makes this any different? I go, I don't know, Bill, what do you think? So he was expecting like a sales pitch. I don't need to sell this. It sells itself. You either get it or you don't, And I said, I don't know. What do you think? He goes, well, it really sounded different because you were talking about this inner game and things like that I hadn't really heard before. I go, well, I guess you should get it then. He goes, all right, I'll get it. So I signed up right on the spot. So anyway, by not selling it, he bought it, that's, you've heard that a million times, right? People love to buy, but they hate to be sold. So there you go. Anyway, so he, I coached him and, he literally went from, again, being stuck at that he was at 6 figures, right? Not 7, but he was at like 6 figures. He was doing okay, but man, he could not break through that ceiling. And then and then actually now he's doing not only multi-million, but multi-billion-dollar hotel deals, right? As a result of going through my Power Habit system. So like I said, you can see all these videos and many more on my website. But the point is that's what really makes my Power Habit system different, right? We're getting to the underlying causes of why people hold themselves back in the first place. Everybody up here is working on the symptoms. And there's a great quote that I love from Thomas Jefferson. He said, for every 99 that is hacking away at the leaves of truth, there's one striking at the root. And yeah, I am that one. I'm striking at the root of why you're holding yourself back from the success you're perfectly capable of. Once we fix that, boom, hockey stick.
I love it. Great stuff there. And I love that example, right? Just understanding what's going on in your mind and how to overcome that. The second thing I was asking about was affirmations. Can you explain kind of affirmations and why you say that instead of affirmations, which is probably the most people are familiar with?
Absolutely. So I want people to realize, I'm going to hold up one of my books here. So what I invented is this process, a method called affirmations. This is my book from Hay House. So it's spelled AFFORMATIONS, affirmations, not affirmations. And you can Google that, affirmations, Noah St. John. Anyway, so everybody, who's ever read a self-help book knows what an affirmation is, right? An affirmation is what we've been taught a million times. The gurus say, well, you just say these positive statements, so it's a statement of something you want to be true. So a classic affirmation. This is another thing I love to do at my keynote speeches, right? When I'm talking, whether live or virtually to audience members, or real estate conferences all around the country or around the world, I'll say, all right, everybody stand up and we're going to say an affirmation just like they taught us. All right. So everybody say, I am rich. Everybody goes, I am rich. You know what happens next? Everybody starts laughing. I go, what are you laughing at? They go, well, I'm not rich. And I say, but you just said you were. And they go, yeah, but I don't believe it. Aha. Now, isn't that the problem with the old method, right? With the way we were taught, right? You just say these positive statements, and you're supposed to believe it. But did you know that 75% of the time we don't believe it, right? An actual study was actually done on this very topic, and it showed that 3 out of 4 people that use the old affirmations method actually end up more frustrated than before. So imagine if you had a smartphone that didn't work 3 out of the 4 times you went to use it. You'd probably get a new phone, wouldn't you? Well, I invented a new phone for your brain. All right. So that's my affirmations method. So an affirmation is an empowering question, because I realized that was one of the epiphanies I talked about in 1997 that I had, when I realized that, wait a minute, why are we going around making statements we don't believe when the human mind responds automatically to questions? And so an affirmation is an empowering question that instantly changes the subconscious thought patterns in your brain. All right. So I'll give you an example. So instead of saying, I am rich, and your brain goes, yeah, right. Right. You don't believe it. Most of the time, we don't believe it. So if you use my affirmations method, what you would say is something like this. You'd say, why am I so rich? Why am I so rich? Now, your brain at first is going to go, huh? What? But if you keep affirming, what you're doing is you're going to engage the brain's embedded presupposition factor. That's just a fancy way of saying when you ask a question, your brain automatically searches for an answer. So if you say, why am I so rich? What do you get? You focus on what you have, right? As opposed to what you lack. See, what most people are doing is unconsciously walking around always thinking about what they lack. Well, when you focus on what you lack, what do you get more of? The experience of lack. When you flip it using my affirmations method, you focus on what you have. When you focus on what you have, what do you get more of? The experience of having, right? This is an ancient law. It's been taught for centuries, but it's never been taught in this way until I discovered and named the affirmations method. Like, as you mentioned earlier, I'm now known as the father of affirmations. And literally now millions of people all around the world are using my affirmations method to make more money, to find love, to, improve relationships, to close deals that they never thought they could. And it's incredibly popular and incredibly powerful. So that's my affirmations method.
And I love that twist, right? Because it's, I've when I first heard of affirmations, because again, you don't really grow up learning. Well, I didn't grow up learning this kind of stuff. So the first time I heard it, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. You're going to go out there and say stuff it's not true, right? I'm rich, I'm great, I'm 7 feet tall, whatever it is, right? You're making this stuff up. And it's like, but it's a lie.
That's
and
right.
What started to get me down this path was really switching it from talking about these things that you're not to the things that you can control. And I love what you're doing even more, because what you're talking about is asking a question that allows you to find what you're already doing, right? Why am I so rich? So now you can go through and you can figure out the things that you do have and go out there and get more of those things. So I love that tweak as well. You've got a lot of great content to help people. You've written over 25 books. You've talked about a couple of them here. Out of everything you've done, what do you get the most excited about? What do, your clients, whether it be audience members at conferences or, some of your coaching clients and folks who come to you, like, what do they rave about the most?
Well, I love that question. And I'll tell you a story to illustrate. So I was talking with one of my one-on-one clients. His name's Charles. And I asked him, I said, Charles, so how did you find out about me? And he told me the story. He said, I was in Barnes and Noble and I walked by your book 3 times. I just kept walking by it. And then something about it called out to me. And this was my book called Power Habits. And he said, I had to buy it. So I bought it. I read half your book. And then I decided to call you because what you're talking about just moved me so deeply on an emotional level. And so he called me up and, we had a conversation, and I just asked him one simple question. I said, Charles, now that you're familiar with my work, you've read some of my stuff, how much do you think this is costing you if we don't put this in place for you this year? And without batting an eye, he said $1 million. He said, this is easily going to cost me $1 million if I don't do what you're talking about. So I said, I'll tell you what, why don't you just give me 10% of that million and I'll find you $1 million in the next 12 months? Like if you give me $1 and I give you $10 back, is that a good deal? He goes, yeah, that's a good deal. So he literally decided to do that. He hired me on the spot, paid me $100K. That's 10% of $1 million, right? And so I coached him for a year. And As it turns out, I didn't find him $1 million in the next 12 months. Instead, I found him 1.8 million in 10 months. So he gave me $1 and I gave him $18 back. Is that a good deal? No, that's a great deal. And then he wrote me an email recently. He said, hey, Noah, guess where I am? I'm on a 7-week vacation with my wife. I just bought a new RV. He said, this is a dream I've had for years. He said, but I never had the money or the time. And he said, now I've, got more money than ever. And I have the time that I never had before. So we're on a 7-week vacation. We're traveling the country. He said, thank you, Noah, for changing my life. So those are the kind of stories that, get me up in the morning, get me excited, is seeing people's lives change from the inside out and how powerful this really is and how life-changing and transformational it is.
I love it, man. Great story. I'm happy to hear how is that Charles was his name, right?
Charles, yes.
I'm happy to hear Charles was able to have that breakthrough and see the success and travel with his wife, man. Great stuff. Again, we're talking about Power Habits again. So check out his website, powerhabitsrealestate.com. That's where the online course is, more information, and you can certainly connect with Dr. Noah there and learn more about all the different things that he has going on. Right now, we're going to transition and go to our round of insights. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the Mastermind button today. All right, give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
Well, I would say probably, deciding to commit suicide and thankfully not doing it at the last minute, and then going on that journey of what is my purpose. And, really, if not for that, I don't know that I would be here doing what I've been doing now for 30 years. So yeah, that was pretty powerful.
Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for our listeners.
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I actually have a free custom GPT that I just released. And it's called the $1 Million Business Gap Finder. So it's a custom GPT that actually shows you where the gaps are and how to actually go from where you are to that million or even $10 million mark. And that's at freegiftfromnoah.com. Very easy to remember. It's a free gift from Noah. So freegiftfromnoah.com. And it's, again, $1 Million Business Gap Finder and a custom GPT. Just put your email in, boom, and it'll take you right there. Freegiftfromnoah.com.
All right. And I know you've written over 25 books. So besides your own, give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
Yeah, that would definitely be The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. He was actually my inspiration for getting into this business. I found his work back in the early 90s when I was, before I had ever written my first book. But following Dr. Covey, I always wanted to be like him and follow in his footsteps. And I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Covey before he passed away, several years ago. And he said one thing that I never forgot. He said, Noah, I want people to leave my seminars more impressed with themselves than with me. And I was like, wow, that is awesome. And how different that is from what we see nowadays, which is all, hey, look at me, look how cool I am. I'm like, yeah, that's great, man. Have you helped anybody? So you notice that's why most of my story is about other people, yeah, I've done well. I'm doing fine, but who cares, right? It really should be about, are you helping other people? Are you making a difference in this world?
Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
Say that question again.
Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
Oh boy. Well, certainly affirmations would do it. If you do nothing else but affirmations are the foundational power habit. There are 11 total power habits that you really need to embody in order to get the kind of hockey stick growth that I've been talking about. But most people find me because of affirmations, because it's so exciting and powerful. So if you do nothing but affirm, yes, you'll certainly, get to a new level. But if you want to do the whole thing, you definitely want to do all 11 power habits. But it's a great place to start is affirmations.
All right. And give me your number one insight for controlling your inner game with affirmations.
Well, you just need to focus on what it is that you want And then, when you follow my system, what it will do is it will uncover the head trash that's actually keeping you blocked. So it's most people, what they're doing is unknowingly, they're driving down the road of life with one foot on the brake. And if you're doing that, no matter how hard you step on the gas, you're still going to just ruin your car faster. So what I do that's different is, and using, my system, we get your foot off the brake, and that's actually what causes, the hockey stick growth. So, just making sure that you understand, number one, what it is that you want. Number two, why is your foot on the brake? And then we got to systematically get your foot off the brake. And that really it has to change your life.
All right, let's go with last question here. Where are you located?
I'm in Northeast Ohio, right by the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So 1 week out of the year, I live in the coolest city in America.
You do. So I'm from Cleveland. So I remember
cool.
that you were in Canton. That's right.
Right.
Love it for a lot of reasons. But the reason I asked the question was, give us your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Oh, boy. What's so funny? It used to be Five Guys. I do love Five Guys, but after a while, my wife and I are like, I don't think we can do Five Guys anymore. Nothing against them, but it's like we got a little, I love staying home. And see, that's why when people ask me that, I'm like, I don't eat out because they never give me what I want. I was on a keto diet before keto was a thing. So I have to eat like tons of protein every day. And when you go out to eat, they never give you any. What they do, they stack all the carbs, carbs. And I'm like, dude, no. So I hate to say it, but my house is my favorite place to eat. So I just like to eat in. I'm funny that way.
I love it, man. I love it. All good there. Well, Dr. Noah, you gave us some great stuff. I enjoyed hearing a little bit more about your story and your journey, and a challenge I think a lot of entrepreneurs and investors go through, right? Is trying to figure out how do they find more success. And sometimes it's a matter of taking a look at what you've already done and kind of turning the table and turning that into a question more. But you talked about that. You talked about the power habits. You talked about the affirmations, and you talked about the inner game and the outer game, and that you really have to control both in order to find success. So I appreciate you sharing some of those tips and insights. Again, for folks that want to learn more, they can check out your website, powerhabitsrealestate.com. And then also you got that free gift with that custom GPT that they can get at freegiftfromnoah.com. Dr. Noah, thanks again for all these great insights. We appreciate your time today, and we look forward to staying in touch with you.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If this hits home for you, it's because the real problem isn't your funnels or your ads, it's the head trash that's keeping you stuck. That's why I've helped people just like you to add over $3 billion by eliminating the head trash that was holding them back. So if you want to be done with head trash once and for all, go to donewithheadtrash.com and sign up for my Done with Head Trash program right now, because it's time for you to be done with head trash too. And be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. I'm Dr. Noah St. John from donewithheadtrash.com, and I look forward to being a part of your success story.